This is for WeFestive day 11, which is going to be December 22nd. So again, our 45-minute and our 60-minute are going to be the same exact exercises. It's just going to be slightly different on the timers because of the rounds or the work rest ratio for that middle portion. So it's still going to be set up the exact same. So for our opening work set, we're now into a Santa's sleighing imam instead of the log cabin. So it's still an imam. We still have 4 different movements, but they're all slightly different. So we're going to start with some reindeer runs. We're then going into single arm planks, a snowstorm squat, and a pike to plank toe touch. Okay, so for your reindeer runs, right, for the 45-minute class, even though it says imam, I believe the timer is set at 45 seconds. So just keep an eye on that, but it's still on the 45. Whatever time they have left is rest. So for your reindeer runs, it's just going to be high knees. They're doing 20 total or 10 each side. So you can have them use their hands as a target point, or you can just make sure they're getting those knees up above hip height. For any of my individuals in class that don't want to do a high knee, I let them do sort of this exaggerated high knee drive, kind of a side step with the drive to the height. You can also come here and do like a weighted goblet march, okay? From there, they're gonna rest until that next timer. They're gonna go into their single arm plank. So for a single arm plank, your feet can be 2 shoulder widths, right? Because it's 1 arm for stability. So let them take their feet a little bit wider. You're still gonna set up your hands so that your pointer fingers are parallel. The yoga block is for an assisted single arm plank. So if I'm setting this up, pointer fingers are parallel. I'm gonna find my feet wider than hip width. I'm gonna stack my shoulders over top of my wrists. And then my free hand is glued along the side of my leg, right? Not behind, not tucked, glued or in that rack position. And then 8 breaths and then switch. If they don't feel comfortable, they can put their free hand up on a block so that it's still biasing one side over the other, but they're not going completely single arm, okay? For the ballistic sumo squat or the snowstorm squat, the ballistic piece is a little bit more of a row, so I guess technically it's like a sumo ballistic row. So you're gonna set them up sumo stance, so wider than hip width. There's going to be a bell on the ground, and you're coming up and dropping. I don't want them to touch the ground if possible. So we're getting load into those adductors and having a little bit of that vertical pull, okay? Last movement is going to be a plank to pike toe touch or ankle or shin. So they're going to, again, pace out their plank with pointer fingers parallel to each other. Find that nice strong plank. As they hit their pike, they're going to reach across and touch the opposite leg, like so. Okay? If that's not something they feel comfortable with, you can have them soften their knees a little. You can have them just work on the plank to pike from the day before, or you can have them do a bird dog if they really just need to work on core and trunk stability. For the second half, we're still using similar styling to Momentum Day B, where we're gonna have a side A and a side B. So side A is working on a single arm clean and jerk. So they're gonna clean between every single arm jerk, okay? They're gonna rotate between that, a hollow hold floor press, and a reindeer row, which is basically just a goblet row because you're holding the horns of the bell. So for your single arm clean and jerk, right, I again sort of shadow, nice strong clean. It's a load, explode, stand, catch, stand. They would then need to re-clean the bell. And I explain it as it's a little bit of a load, so you're unlocking that spring, then you drop through a trap door as your arm extends and you drop your body weight under the bell, stand all the way tall, finding that full extension, and then catch that bell at the bottom because it should be heavier than what they would typically put overhead. In real time, right? Nice strong clean, load, explode, stand, catch, stand, and you can even say that ditty with them, okay? So load, explode, stand, catch, stand, load, explode, stand, catch, stand. This is going to be a working period. I believe we start with the 30 seconds of work, 20 seconds of rest, and then 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest for the 45 minute. For the 60-minute, our work starts at 40 seconds, and they go through 3 rounds of decreasing work time. But double check your timers, because those are accurate. For the holiday hold floor press, you're coming into your hollow hold, so that back's gonna stay nice and flat, one leg out, then the other, and then they hit that floor press. Okay, if this is too challenging for them, they can tuck one leg in, like we did with the hollow hold, or they can tuck both legs in and just find that brace here. Okay, so even with the legs up, it's going to be a little bit more challenging than a bridge because we've taken away the point of stability with the feet. The last exercise for side A, they're going to grab the horns of the bell and they're going to row into their stomach. You can have them flip it over if they feel more comfortable, kind of holding a little bit more onto the bell, right? So like we did for our pumpkin row in Hollow WeFit, but it's a central bell row, so let them know they can go a little bit heavier than they would for a single arm row, and we still want that nice strong hinge pulling into that sort of belly button just below the rib cage area. B, we're doing a little bit more plyometric, so we're using our depth drop, but we're gonna land in single leg this time, okay? So if people have been continuously coming to class, they would have already progressed from the drop squat in a previous cycle into our depth drop, into our single leg pogos, and now combining single leg work and depth drop. We're gonna start on the box. They're going to pretend as if they're kind of jumping or falling off, but they're gonna land on one leg, finding that nice strong stability. Still trying to absorb as best as possible, so you don't want them to land stiff leg on the ground. So they're starting on the box, landing on one side, okay? Exercise 2 is gonna be box jumps. So finding a box that they feel comfortable with, making sure they're loading and thinking about coming up and over that box so that they float onto the top instead of kind of stomping their feet and landing on the box. So here, up and over, have them stand all the way tall and then step down. If somebody in class doesn't feel comfortable with a box jump, you can have them do a single leg step up, adding the extra challenge of that single leg knee drive, or you can just have them step up, okay? If they just feel uncomfortable with the height, but they still wanna do a jump, you can grab a stepper so that it's a lower surface, or have them do forward, backward pogos on the ground. The last exercise for side B is gonna be the Santa shuffle, which is just a lateral shuffle between cones, pacing out the distance for whatever you have space. We want them in that slight athletic stance. Shuffle, shuffle. I don't want them going around the cone because I want them to have to plant and change direction so that we're working on that single leg stability and then change direction. Our finishing AMRAP, we're still doing our walking around AMRAP, where we're working on swings and TGUs. And then I also have some Z pressing for some overhead stability. So we're gonna do Santa stepping swings, which is gonna be forward and backward. So we already worked on the 2 versions of lateral stepping swings. So forward, backward, timing is gonna be the same, except at the float, you're gonna step forward and backward versus side to side. So you're gonna find that nice strong hinge, pack those shoulders, big hike. As you float, you're gonna step up and then step back. Step up, step back. Okay, so that's gonna be your forward stepping swing. If someone doesn't feel comfortable with that, feel confident in letting them utilize just a standard kettlebell swing, or even them taking them all the way back down to a deadlift so they can work on that grind baseline strength so they have a really strong foundation for their swing. The next movement in the AMRAP, and again, they're gonna cycle through this at their own pace. That's something that feels challenging but achievable, meaning that they are still focusing on form and maintaining good technique under the bell, is we're gonna do a tension TGU. So for the tension TGU, we're doing 2 back-to-back TGUs where we're not putting the bell down. So nice strong roll. We find a sweep where my knee comes exactly where my butt was. I hinge into my hips to come tall. I'm using my opposite hand to tell me that this is the leg that goes back. Big step open, front inner thigh to find the ground. I load my hand before I sweep my leg through, control to the roll, right to my back. I'm keeping this bell extended, going right into My second TGU, this is what makes it a tension TGU. Again, coming all the way tall, free hand, tells me what leg goes back, front inner thigh, load the hand, nice strong sweep to the elbow control, lower down, both hands take the bell in the roll. So if somebody is regularly TGUing with a 16, because we're doing 2 back to back, you may tell them to bell 1 or 2 sizes down from their standard TGU bell, because you will start to feel some of that fatigue in the shoulder. The last exercise is going to be a seesaw Z press. So for that seesaw Z press, yes, I prefer kettlebells, but I know with some of our studios, it's harder to get a pair of kettlebells for every member. So feel free to use dumbbells for this. So for the Z press, okay, we're out with our legs in a V. It's not called a Z press because our legs are in a Z. It's called a Z press because the guy who founded the motion, his name is very Russian and it starts with a Z. I can't pronounce it, but that's why it's called a Z press. So legs are out in front, quads are nice and tight to give us stability. We're stacked, shoulders over hips. We're not rounding in our spine. We have both dumbbells or kettlebells, same size. One goes up, and then you alternate the press, okay? So this is gonna feel a little bit easier than a double bell Z press because you have a little bit of that counterweight and momentum. So you're pressing one size at a time. We don't want them leaning a ton, but if they have a little bit of a lean because they're engaging their obliques, that's okay. Just make sure they stay mostly central during that movement.